Dana White has announced a couple of fights so far for UFC 300. We just found out that Michael Chandler and Conor McGregor will not headline UFC 300, and we probably won't get Islam Makhachev and Charles Oliveira. A lot of people think UFC 300 is going to go downhill and it really won't be that great of a card, but I still think that they could save the card to end the year with these fights. We're going to go over my picks in a pretty realistic situation for the main event and all the way down to the opening fight in the main card, and I think it could save the year. But before we do, please give this video a like, comment who you would like to see at UFC 300 or some fun fights you would like to see happen, and subscribe for more content like this. Now, let's get into it. For the main event, it's pretty obvious. Alex Pereira and Jamahal Hill. Now, we just saw the light heavyweight situation go down at UFC 295. Alex Pereira and Jiří Procházka. And you know what? Alex Pereira has been talking about how he wants a fast turnaround, and he is getting older. He can't stay young. He can't take a lot of time off, and especially if he is going to go up to heavyweight, which a lot of people have been rumoring. And honestly, who wouldn't want to see Alex Pereira at heavyweight? Like, he could honestly be the first athlete to hold 3 belts in 3 different weight classes. Like, he could be the guy to do it. And Jamahal Hill, you know, he had the Achilles injury and he looked great against Glover Teixeira. He rightfully deserves the title shot because he is the one who got to drop it. I think Alex Pereira and Jamahal Hill is a great UFC 300 main event. It has a story to it. It's an equal fight. It's a stand-up fight. And I think a lot of people are overlooking how banger of a fight this would be. Jamahal Hill probably wouldn't take Pereira down, but Jamahal Hill does have the takedown accuracy and defense to pretty much control the grappling area. And Alex Pereira, the man who has power, the guy who knocked out Jiří Procházka, but the man who has the striking ability to probably put out anybody in the UFC, if we're going to be honest. That would be a very interesting main event, and honestly, a great headline for UFC 300. Now, for the co-main event, a lot of people won't like this matchup, but we should still have it. And honestly, if you put it on the co-main event, I don't think it's that bad. Leon Edwards taking on Belal Muhammad. Now, a lot of people don't like Belal Muhammad, and I understand why. He's not interesting. He doesn't go for finishes. And he doesn't really have that charisma to him, but he is still a dangerous fighter. He's won a ton of fights in a row, and honestly, it seems like nobody can really figure out how to beat him because his wrestling is that good. Now, Leon Edwards, a lot of people aren't liking him because of his fight against Colby, and I really don't think that's Leon's fault. I really think you put the blame more on Colby than Leon. I still think Leon is a very interesting striker. He's a very interesting fighter, and we can't forget he is the one that knocked out Kamaru Usman. If you have Leon Edwards versus Belal Muhammad in the co-main event, it will be probably a decision fight. It might not be the most entertaining fight, but I do think Leon Edwards will show his grappling defense like he has in his past couple of fights. He has been leveling up. He's been getting better as a fighter. He could finish Belal Muhammad. Belal Muhammad could win a really boring decision. We don't know, but I really do think for UFC 300, it's not that bad of a fight to have at your co-main event. Now, for the co-main event, we have Alexa Grasso defending her flyweight championship fight against Weili. This would be 3 title fights on UFC 300. I think Alexa Grasso, she deserves it. She defeated Valentina twice. You know, she deserves putting her name into a big spotlight, and especially on a big card like UFC 300. And Weili, she's a masterclass strawweight fighter. I mean, she looked amazing against Rose. That fight against Joanna. I mean, Weili has proven over and over and over again that she really is a great champion. And I really do think she could be a 2-belt champion. She has the skill. She is a little bit shorter, but her versus Alexa Grasso for the co-main event would be amazing. Now, for my second fight into UFC 300, this fight probably won't happen, but I do think it would be amazing to see the #1 middleweight contender, Jared Cannonier, taking on Khamzat Chimaev. I think this matchup, although a lot of people don't think Khamzat has a chance really at middleweight because of his close fight against Kamaru Usman that was on a 10-day notice, and Kamaru Usman, if it was 5 rounds, probably was going to beat Khamzat Chimaev. I think it's still interesting. I still think Khamzat Chimaev is a favorite fighter. He still demolishes pretty much everyone in the first round, and his cardio is in question. But fighting someone like Jared Cannonier is a true test in the middleweight division. I believe if Khamzat Chimaev defeats Jared Cannonier, a true middleweight former contender at the championship level, a real middleweight fighter, a top 5 fighter, if Khamzat defeats Jared Cannonier, it shows that Khamzat Chimaev is the deal. He should fight for the belt next. And honestly, who wouldn't want to see Sean Strickland and Khamzat, or DDP and Khamzat? I mean, great matchups happen when you put Khamzat Chimaev's name in there. And for the opening fight, this is going to surprise a lot of people. I originally had Dustin Poirier fighting Nate Diaz, but I recently saw where he was pretty much saying that's not going to happen. And it makes sense. I don't think Nate's going to come back to the UFC for quite some time, but it would still be cool to see. I still think Dustin Poirier should fight the opening fight on UFC 300, but against a real welterweight contender, Vicente Luque. Vicente Luque, he got pulled out against his fight against Ian Gary because Ian Gary got sick, and honestly, who wouldn't want to see Dustin Poirier and Vicente Luque? Now, Vicente Luque is a great brawler. He has pretty good grappling, and he is a little bit bigger than Dustin Poirier. But Dustin Poirier, dude, he's massive. He can go to welterweight. He's shown that Dustin Poirier is a championship fighter. He's a championship caliber fighter. He's proven that he can go and pretty much fight the hardest fighters you can fight. You know, Dustin Poirier did just get knocked out by Justin Gaethje, and I really don't see Dustin Poirier fighting for a belt again at lightweight, but I do think he has a lot of fun fights left in him, and I think Vicente Luque and Dustin Poirier opening UFC 300 would be amazing. Vicente Luque would finally get his shine. He lost the fight against Ian Gary, and Dustin Poirier would finally show everyone why he is truly one of the baddest motherfuckers in the game right now. Those are my picks for UFC 300. I honestly think this card could happen. I think it's pretty realistic now. You could probably say Khamzat and Jared Cannonier probably won't happen, and Vicente Luque and Dustin Poirier probably won't happen. But the top 3 fights are most likely going to happen. It's pretty realistic. 3 title fights. We haven't seen a 3 title fight card in quite some time, and honestly, they're all pretty good fights. You just have to find 2 good opening fights for UFC 300, but they're all realistic, and I would love to see all those fights happen. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. See you in the next video.